Today, we're thrilled to have Simon Polito, an esteemed international real estate agent and auctioneer with over 2 decades of experience. Simon recently returned from Sydney will enlighten us on the changing market dynamics, the Australian commission structure, and his proven auction method to sell homes quickly. Simon Polito, welcome.
Thank you for having me here, Ron.
That was a pretty good introduction, wasn't it?
I like it. You can do that all day.
I'll share it with you. So back from Sydney.
Yeah, I was there for the last 6 weeks. I just flew in a couple of days ago, and
I thought that was a Brooklyn accent. I don't know.
Yeah, it's Brooklyn or Massachusetts, Boston, something like that.
So you're 6 weeks.
6 weeks back there, and I redid my whole license course over there while I was there, and I learned all about how the commission structures, legislation, and everything that goes with it is coming together. And that's the interesting thing. The guy who trained me was actually part of the lawsuit with NAR over here. They flew him out from Australia. So I was getting direct feedback and being taught by the guy who's part of the case.
So he's part of the problem,
possibly, depending on how you look at it. Correct.
Well, so explain to me what you've gleaned from all this.
Yeah. So what I understand is, like, look, the Australian model is a very aggressive model, but it works extremely well. It's a lower commission rate. You can't work both sides of the transaction. You can only legally and ethically work one side. If you want to be a buyer's agent, you're a buyer's agent.
You know something, to me, I talk about two scenarios. Don't want you to get mad at me.
No, right.
So, well, what's it? Justin Timberlake. Isn't he the one that just got arrested yesterday?
Did he?
Okay,
really?
yeah. So he gets arrested for a DUI in the Hamptons. Allegedly. I mean, it's not a closed case. But do you think that he's going to hire the district attorney to represent him in court? No. If you're getting divorced, are you going to hire your wife or your husband's attorney to represent you? No. So why, in your largest transaction that most of us ever do, the purchase of a home or the financing of a home, why would you hire the agent of the other party? Doesn't make sense to me.
And that's why they're rolling this out. Because now, when I moved over here 9 years ago, I was blown away at the fact that you could actually legally represent both sides.
Yeah.
And get paid for it.
So if you're representing both sides, who do you represent?
That's what I'm saying.
Yourself?
Yeah. Who are you more biased towards?
Right.
A seller wants $1 million, but you got a buyer who's got 1.1. What number do you give the buyer and the seller?
Right. Well, you just want to get the deal done.
Exactly.
Right.
That's
So it's like, how do I get the deal done? Not trying to maximize either one's position.
Correct. So whereas in Australia, you have a listing agent and you have a buyer's agent, 2 completely separate companies.
Okay.
And that buyer's agent's job is to help you source, negotiate, and complete the transaction.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And you pay them a fee for it.
And that makes sense.
Right.
And I'm going to guess that the more you pay them, the more of them that are going to want to work for you.
On average, it's 1.5% to 2%.
1.5% to 2%
to the buyer's agent. And then the same for the listing side. It's between 1.5% and 2%, depending on the location. Sydney property prices are medium sale price is $2 million right now in Sydney.
Wow.
So you're dealing with a higher level of price point, which means that's why the commissions are down. The biggest thing that no one's mentioned once that I've seen is that in Australia, the sellers pay for all the marketing.
Okay.
So we call it in Australia vendor paid marketing because the seller is called a vendor in Australia. But over here, what they have not implemented is, look, we get a higher commission structure right now currently, but we're paying all the marketing.
Who's we?
We being the listing agent.
Ah, okay.
Right. Now that doesn't happen in Australia. The agents that pay for marketing in Australia aren't in business anymore. They're broke.
Because they're only working on 1.5% to 2%.
And you haven't got a seller who's motivated. They've got no money into it.
No skin in the game.
Exactly. So this is where I find it's going to be interesting and how they adopt it into California, particularly because I haven't heard any mention about who's paying for the marketing, but they want to drop our rates down to the Australian model.
Well, I'm on the other side of that coin, Simon. I think that other than us confusing the whole market, and from what I've heard, the latest number I heard out of what is it, almost $1 billion in settlement now.
Yeah.
The consumer is going to get $13. $13 is what the consumer is going to get.
What it is.
That's it.
Okay.
So who's getting all that money? The attorneys. No, does that surprise anybody at all?
Surprise, surprise, surprise.
$13 is what the and we've
That's mind blowing.
Yeah, we've turned an entire industry, market, and philosophy upside down, so that a handful of attorneys get mega millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Now, on the other part of it, I'll throw this at you, Simon. Tell me what your thoughts are. I don't think anything's going to change in the commission world.
No, I don't think so either. I think there'll be a little bit of uneasiness and a little bit of unsureness as to what's really happening.
Sure.
But I believe it will return to a consistent market that we've been in before. This is going to eradicate a lot of the agents that have been doing shady activities.
Now, which broker? Who's your broker?
EXP.
EXP. Okay, so does EXP tell you how much you have to charge?
Not yet. I envision that's going. They say you can't do a listing for less than 1%.
Okay.
On a listing side, that's their rules. However, they haven't put a cap on how much you can charge.
And see, that's another part of the fallacy of this whole lawsuit. Is they're telling you, okay, you can't go below 1% because that's what I'm assuming that's what they take, so to speak.
Well, yeah, everyone's got to make some money out of the game.
Right. But it's not a fixed number, which was what the allegation was in the lawsuit in the first place, is that
it's never been a fixed number.
It's never been fixed.
No, it's always been an option.
Right.
It's never changed.
And the whole idea is those people that really understand human nature will understand that, you know something, I'm not going to work every day if I don't get paid. I'm betting you're not going to work every day to not get paid. And real estate agents are not going to work every day to not get paid. And let's see, if you pay a little more in many, many instances, do you think that you're going to get a little more effort or a little more attraction? Well, in commission sales, you say, you know something, I'm going to pay you 1%, and you go, okay, if I get to it, I get to it. 2%, maybe I'm starting to get a little bit more excited. Jump that up to 4%. Everybody and their uncle is calling everybody they know that wants to buy a piece of property because they're looking at it and saying, number one, this is right property for you. That's always number one, suitability. And number two, I can get paid if I sell a property. And I don't sell real estate, but I can get paid if I sell a property at 4% on $1 million property. If my math is right, that's about $40,000. And you're not paying anybody. This is what people don't want to talk about. No real estate agent, for the most part, I mean, very, very rare, does a real estate agent get paid for the transaction they're doing. They get paid for the experience they bring to the transaction.
Absolutely.
Right? Have you ever had a transaction that was totally smooth, nothing, no speed bumps?
There's been a few, not many.
Not many.
Not as many as I'd like, but
Right.
yeah, it definitely has happened.
But why? So why do people go to you? They go to you for a simple reason.
They want the experience.
You know how to navigate those speed bumps.
They don't want to stress. They don't want the stress. They
Right.
don't want the harassment. They don't want to be disturbed all the time.
They might even want to expose themselves. But we're going to talk about that when we come back. Continuing our conversation, we are chatting this morning. Simon Polito is with us. So Simon, I saw in the notes, 28 days to get a property sold.
Absolutely. Or less.
Or less.
Yes. In this current market.
What about even in Hollywood?
We did one.
Okay.
We actually just closed one in North Hollywood last month.
Okay.
Which we sold. It had been on the market for over a year with several other agents. And we came in 28 days and we got it sold.
Okay. So and so do you have to give it away for that?
No, we actually got we got the realistic price. Obviously, like you pointed out earlier, the Hollywood market has dropped. And we had a seller who bought a flip in the heat of the market and didn't calculate a market decline, generally calculate a market increase. So it's been a lot of education. That's what auction does. Like you pointed out earlier, it's worth what someone is willing to pay. That's where the market sees value.
How does the auction work? I mean, do you just go out there and say, okay, well, you want to start bidding? And
yeah,
what's the process?
Yes and no. So it's a 28-day program, like we discussed. It consists of a 1 hour open house twice a week.
1 hour open house.
1 hour open house twice a week. So say a Wednesday and a Saturday, for example's sake. And that happens for 3 weeks. And then on the fourth weekend, you'll have yours truly at the property calling a live auction. So people have 3 weeks from the start of us marketing it to do their research, look over we do all the reports and disclosures on the property as well. So we get a home inspection, termite report, seller's disclosures, NHD, prelim, any HOA CCNRs if it's part of one, or any material facts like permits or anything that comes with the property, we procure before we even go active.
Oh, that's a good deal.
So they know what you're buying.
So one of the big things, obviously, with a lot of auctions is our connotation is it's distress, and I'm buying something I have no clue about.
Correct. It's always buyer beware. You don't know what you're
Right.
going to get. You might get a squatter. You might have a dilapidated home. We don't know. But with us, we're not touching anything that's distressed. We're doing everyday traditional listings.
Okay.
Just instead of you listing your home for $1 million as a traditional agent, we'd come in and list it at $699 or $799, depending on how strong the market is, and we'd let the market push the price up to where they see
Wait.
value.
You're listing at 30% below.
20 to 30, depending on the market conditions at the time.
That's scary. I'm a seller. I don't want to lose my house for that much.
We can start lower if you want, Baron.
Start lower.
Yeah, you can start at $1 if you really want. You want national news? Put your 4% commission with a $1 bidding to start from. We will blow up this whole world.
You get 4 cents for it.
It doesn't have to sell on the day. So that's one contract. That's one part of our contract that we have with our sellers, and we disclose to all buyers. So on the day of the before auction, at auction, or for 60 days preceding the auction, the seller has the right to accept, reject, or negotiate.
Okay, so that's where the protection
It takes
is for
away
the
the
seller.
risk. Absolutely.
So the seller really has nothing to lose.
No, I mean they've already been on the market, and typically for us, we pick up a lot of existing listings.
Okay.
I'd love more new listings, but we typically pick up a lot of existing listings, and they've been on the market for a time. They're exhausted. They want to get it moved. So what have they got to lose?
Okay, so let's just go with the number you just said. So you get $1 million property. It's been on the market and 6 months, and now you go in there and put it. Let's just use a number 700,000.
Yeah.
Doesn't that give the market saying, "Hey, what's wrong with this property? Why are they? What's the?"
It's funny. Every seller thinks what you just said. Every buyer thinks, "Hold on, I might get a deal here."
Really? So the buyers are not thinking that there's a problem.
Deal. 9 times out of 10, I ask every buyer that comes through, and they all think, "Oh, it looks like a great deal."
Interesting.
And the deal, I say, "Yeah, you're absolutely right. The deal is I'm going to help you find your dream home. That's the deal."
Okay.
Let me know. Does this fit your criteria?
Now, what about qualifying for it? Are they qualifying for a $700,000 property for 20% down or 10% down?
And some may be. If they've got that's a good point, actually. If they've got a 20% down at 700, that means, knowing that we know what we know, they don't have to put 20% down. They could put 10, and we could increase their limit. Right?
Exactly.
So it's very important that we have a good level of dialogue between the lender and us and the listing agent, depending on who wants to coordinate the conversation. We've got to constantly be letting the lender know what the situation is, showing them all the disclosures and reports, and then getting their client pre-underwritten.
Well, that's the only way to do it anymore. So you got to have the pre-underwrite.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's a lazy exit when people just give you a pre-approval. It doesn't really mean much. The ink on the paper is worth more.
Yeah, I laugh when people say, we want a pre-approval, or we want an auto. You get agents that don't always understand the whole process. I want a DU approval. I can make a DU approval say anything I want it to say just by putting in good information or bad information.
Yeah.
Right. If I feed it the information, whether it's accurate or not, that fits the criteria, I'm going to get that approval.
Correct.
So that the pre-underwrite is a much more significant.
Absolutely.
However, and at least in that 28 days, you have time to get it.
Exactly. So we're giving people time. However, you can stop the auction from happening. That's actually, our days on market are actually 17. So
explain days on market.
So days on market is, with our program, you don't have to go to the auction.
Okay.
You can, if you're interested in the property. We've given you all the due diligence up front. So you can do your due diligence, get your financing in line, come in with a good, strong offer to entice the seller to stop the auction, and you got a deal.
So that $700,000 listing, I know the market value because my good agent explained to me that the market is really $950,000, $1,050,000, whatever.
And that person might put down $1,050,000 because they know they're going to end up paying more on the day of the auction, and they just want to lock everyone out and they want to secure the property for themselves.
Interesting. So then it comes right off market and everyone goes their own way.
Then it's done. Escrow's open.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Continue our conversation. Simon Polito is with us. He's our auctioneer here. So Simon, is this your own invention?
No, I wish I could say yes, but it's been around for centuries. It's been around for decades.
In real estate?
In real estate, absolutely.
Wow.
It's the oldest form of selling anything, from not just real estate, from personal items.
Well, I mean, you see it in some of the old movies about horse auctions and cattle auctions. Correct. And things like that. But real estate,
yeah. I mean, well, think of what's the most expensive thing ever sold at an auction, right? Artwork.
Art,
that sells for a lot more money than what most real estate is sold.
Sure, millions.
So if that can happen on a level of price that high, why wouldn't it be able to work on real estate, right?
Because a lot of those art pieces that they're doing that high is just money laundering. But I say that.
And maybe there's people doing that in real estate as well. Who knows? I don't want to know. La, la, la.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's just another way it was developed. It's very affluent method in Australia, where I'm
Okay.
from. It's very affluent in New Zealand and Southern Asia as well as South Africa and into other European countries. But in the United States, it's definitely changed in the last 9 years of me living here from a 5% recognition to I want to say about 30 to 35% recognition.
Okay, so people are actually understanding that it's going on.
Correct. They're seeing more and more of it. The world records have been set in Bel Air for the last 2 years running.
They're auctioning properties in Bel Air?
Yeah. Remember that one called The One last year? Went to auction for $126 million.
Okay, and what did it sell for?
$126 million.
So they went to auction. That's
They
what
went to auction as an absolute auction. It had previously been listed at one stage for $500 million.
Wow.
It went down to 400 million, then it went to 300 million. The guy was into it for 200 million. A competing company of mine, which I won't say, went in and got the listing as an auction company. And they do what is known as an absolute auction, different to what I do, which means it absolutely sells on the day for whatever the highest bid is. Back to your point of about
Wow,
2 cents
okay.
or 20 cents, whatever it was. So that actually sold well under market value, in my opinion. There was a lot of excuses and reasons they gave by saying foreign markets weren't able to partake and whatnot, but that's what it was.
Well, if you can afford $128 million for a property, you can figure out how to get there to bid on it.
Correct. Now, here's the thing. It had a 12% buyer premium.
Explain buyer premium.
Buyer premium is an amount of money that the buyer will pay at the close of escrow. So if, for example, let's just say we're selling that $1 million house again, because it's easy for numbers. $1 million house at the close of escrow, as one of your closing costs as a buyer, you'll have a $20,000 fee. You'd have a $20,000 fee if it was with us. We'd do a 2% buyer premium.
Okay.
You'd have a $120,000 fee if you were working with that competing company.
Wow.
You would have to
Same
pay
property.
on top of the price. Yes.
And you add that to the price, so it's not something that's coming out of the seller's pocket.
Correct. It's added to the price. Now, there are some buyers in this current market, which we're well aware of, that don't have liquid cash available.
Sure.
So they will end up putting their buyer premium inclusive of the purchase price to try and get financing for that.
Okay. And the lenders will allow that.
I haven't had a kickback yet. And it's been
Okay.
several years we've been
We're not
doing
talking
that.
about kickbacks, Simon.
No, I'm not. I haven't any pushback. I should say.
exactly.
I haven't had any pushback from any lenders at this point because they see that this is part of the purchase price.
Sure. They just put it in. Basically, what I would assume is you just write one contract. You don't even.
Correct.
This is how we're breaking down the
Yeah,
fees
as long
of
as
the
we itemize things correctly, everyone knows what's going on.
Full disclosure.
Absolutely, over disclose.
Absolutely. Well, that's the thing that I like with your process is that, when someone's going in making an offer on a property traditionally, what they're doing is then all the due diligence starts.
Mm-hmm.
In your process, it's already been done.
Correct. So we're selling properties non-contingent, no home inspection, no termite report contingency, and we're not giving them any contingencies for appraisal or loan because they've got their loan approved already.
Well, how do you know that the value is going to work for the loan?
So in the case of an appraisal, which we are seeing that come out more and more of late because the market has been changing.
Sure.
There are some sellers that are open to accepting that as a clause, but not for as long a period.
Okay.
So they might say, okay, we'll give you 5 days to conduct an appraisal, but we're not renegotiating the sales price. It's just for you to get your financing. If you can't perform, then you're going to have to pull out.
Okay. So you have to have a lender that understands how to get the appraisal done that quick. Because most of the appraisers are wanting 7 days, but you can pay extra
5
to
to 7 days. You can get it expedited.
You can pay extra to get it expedited.
Again, and we've given you all the other information, so you're not losing time.
So you're able to go and look at that home inspection report and the termite report. All that stuff is available.
Correct. So we have hard copies at the open houses that we conduct. And at the open house, we have a QR code you can scan. So consumers, being the buyers, can actually scan it with their phone, go home and look at it at their own leisure. Or if you're a listing or if you're a buyer's agent, you go on the MLS in the agent remarks. We've got a hyperlink there. You click that, takes you to the same website. You can download every document.
Interesting. That's pretty fascinating way of doing things. It's when I first started talking about this a few years back, I hadn't even heard of it for the process. I still don't hear about it very often.
I've been doing a lot more coincidentally, a lot more in LA.
Okay.
Because again, like we pointed out earlier, sellers are running out of ways to sell their house because no one wants to buy in LA right now.
So your car can't sputter at the county line.
So no, I can't. Can't at all. No, if not, I'm in big trouble. But so now we're picking up a lot of listings that have been on the market for a period of time. They haven't had the traction they were hoping for. They're now at a point where they're in trouble or they need to meet the market and move on with their life.
So why would I want to have you do a live auction instead of doing it on Zoom or on?
Love this question.
Okay.
Love this question.
I
Think
thought it was a
about
good
this.
one.
Have you ever been online shopping?
Of course, I'm on Amazon all the time. I try and block my wife.
So have you ever got to the point where you've been clicking and buying all these things? You get to your cart and you're like, oh no, I can't afford any of that.
Right.
So a little trick I do is I just close the window and you can't go back and find everything, right?
Okay.
Now, like you could do that with a real estate
No,
transaction.
Amazon keeps it all
You could
right
be making
there.
bids, and they go, oh, no, you know what, I'm out, pull out. There's a lot of you end up in a lawsuit. It's not as honest, it's not as transparent. And then what we're seeing with a lot of my competitors, again, I won't mention them, they're in a lot of lawsuits right now for fake bids. You can't police. How do you police that? Whereas with us, when we have a live auction, to be able to get a paddle to bid on the day, you've got to put 3% into an escrow account.
Okay.
So I know everyone who's got a paddle has got money on the table already.
So they've already got some skin in the game.
And
then.
that helps a seller see that the people who are bidding are real.
Yeah, you can understand how it'd be interesting to see how some of these companies would police, the fake bidder.
There was a big one in Florida Keys. It was over $40 million with fake bids. And the buyer somehow found out that he was duped into paying more than what he should have. And he's now suing that company. Look, a lot of agents, a lot of auctioneers, I should say, during COVID switched to digital, and we did partly. But I truly believe I get much better results when I'm live.
Sure.
That's what I train for. And it's more fun.
Now, when you say doing it live as opposed to digital, is Zoom considered digital or StreamYard? Is that digital?
So there's three styles, right? You've got the online style, which is like an eBay, where
Okay,
you have no
right.
interaction with anybody. You're purely just pressing a button against the clock.
Right.
Then you have the live auctions, which is virtually streamed,
Right.
which I still feel is good, but nothing will ever replace, in my mind, physically standing at the property, pointing out the attributes.
I would think like a hybrid where you have the streaming and the live together.
So we offer the streaming for people who can't make it to the auction.
Yeah.
So they can partake in it. Or if people don't want to do that, they can just submit a proxy bid or have some bid on their behalf.
The whole idea of it sounds to me like the goal is to get the most possible people involved.
Correct.
Interesting. You want more information about auctioning your house with the protections from Simon Polito? Give me a call at 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990.